So, Dolly Parton, huh?
Yeah.
What's up, dude?
What's up, man?
Hey, welcome to the Bathroom Break Podcast. I'm your host, Rab himself, and I'm sitting here with JONNYRADTKE, guitarist of Filter and Kill Hannah and other bands, too. You're like in, I feel like in a whole bunch of projects.
A bunch of stuff, yeah. Most notably, Kill Hannah, Filter.
Yeah.
Another project called 8mm. It's with producer Sean Bevan and his wife Juliette Bevan.
Oh, rad.
Sean Bevan did my first record on Atlantic, the first Kill Hannah record that we ever did, and also he's responsible for all the Nine Inch Nails, Marilyn Manson stuff. So so we have a thing going as well.
So he's also a musician.
And he's an amazing producer. He used to do like live front of house for Nine Inch Nails back in the day before he started working on the records as well, mixing and all that stuff. So yeah, he's an insane, and he's a guitar player. He's kind of an all-around guy, so he's great.
Yeah, that's crazy. I feel like you would have to be in order to like I always found that crazy when a producer like isn't a musician, because you're like, how do you understand what's going on?
I know. Fortunately for me, like all the records that I've done with producers, whether it's Sean Bevan or Johnny K or Bob Marlette, they're all accomplished musicians.
Yeah,
and they happen to be amazing producers as well. They just have that ear.
Yeah.
So it's really great to be in the studio while you're tracking stuff with them, and then they're like, "Oh, dude, wait, here, let me show you what I'm talking about." And they grab the guitar, and it's great when you have a fellow musician in the room working on the music with you. So
yeah, I was thinking about because this was always sort of a question that I had. I have friends that have bands where they'll produce their records, and do you think I guess from an outside perspective, I'm not a musician, but my thought was always, it's really good to have an outside producer because they have like an unbiased look at the music or feel for the music, whereas like maybe one of the band members producing it, because I know like when I'm making like films or whatever like that, and I'm sitting there editing, like if I shoot it, I direct it, and I edit it, I'm like so immersed in it that I can't even see it.
Yeah, I'm the same where because I also produce and I can mix as well, and I do a lot of that. I'm self-contained, especially when I'm writing and demoing and everything like that, and I get really immersed into it, and you sort of lose sight. It's hard to see outside of the box sometimes, and that's why it's important to have a second set of ears and a perspective on it. And so, and usually in a lot of cases, it's specifically in mine, just the last couple Filter records that Richard and I have done, it's just been me, Richard, and the producer, and it's starting from actually demo process until final product. So he was with us as a songwriter as well. Which is pretty cool. And plus also, and we would try everything, and like that's the thing. Like we'd go down a rabbit hole, and then he's kind of the one to hone it in and be like, we're getting a little Let's pull it back. Yeah, let's pull it back a little bit. Yeah, and keeps you focused.
Yeah, that's so cool because I watched that Defiant Ones with Jimmy Iovine and like kind of seeing that process. Like he's not a musician, but he does understand it. On a serious level of like even just when he's sitting with you too, it's like, oh, what if it was like this or that? And it's crazy to me. Like,
those guys that have those, they're just so good at understanding where the artist is trying to go. Yeah, and they're the ones that have like bring the an idea that maybe Bono or The Edge hadn't thought about, and be like, well, what if we tried it this way? Think about it this way. It's just they're just another piece of the puzzle. And it's really remarkable when you have, especially like Jimmy Iovine and people like that really have an ear for that. They're just great at what they do. Yeah. And fortunately, like we've always, whether it's Filter or Kill Hannah, like any producer that we've ever worked with has really shared the same vision. And we had to, there's obviously a vetting process, and like you have to get to know the guys before you commit to like, we're going to be together for a while, like in the studio for 6 to 8 months.
Maybe forever.
Yeah, exactly. And so you really find out, you start to gravitate towards those people that really understand what you're trying to do, where you're coming from. They understand like the aesthetic of the band, like the vibe, what the fans are into. And basically they listen to you, and it's their job to help facilitate and like really get the best of, like, just get what you're thinking, what's in your head, get it out there.
Yeah.
And it's a really cool process, especially when you're with, you know, those types of guys that are just geniuses. And
yeah. And your producer's name is, you said Scott, or
the Sean Bevan, who did the first Kill Hannah record.
Yeah.
And you know, we were huge fans of his, especially, you know, me growing up with Nine Inch Nails. And
yeah,
you know, I'm one of those kids that, you know, you'd go to record stores after school and just hang out.
Yeah.
And like, you know, you'd buy your records, your CDs or tapes, CDs and everything. And you'd go home, and half part of the experience was, you know, you're listening to the album and you're reading all the liner notes, like who was involved.
Yeah.
Who was like one of the engineers, who was the producer, who was the mixer, who mastered it, all that stuff. So like Sean Bevan's name was in all of my favorite records.
Damn, yeah.
And so when we came out to, before we were signed to Atlantic Records, we were flown out here. I want to say this is like 2001, like the very beginning of 2001. We came out here to showcase for like every label under the sun. We were here for like 3 days. They had rented out SIR. And it was very, like, you had to, basically the show was like a full production show, but no crowd, just label people.
Yeah.
So it's very awkward. Like,
yeah.
you know, we're sitting there in, you know, makeup, the wardrobe, everything, the lights, the production, and you're playing like it's supposed to. You're playing in front of 100,000 people, but you're playing for 20 people from a label, and they're all sitting on couches. So it's like, you have, I know, and you have to play like it's the best show you've ever played. Like, you know what I mean? And like, and then afterwards, you know, you meet everybody, you shake hands, and we did that for, you know, a couple days, literally for every label under the sun. And I remember Sean, I don't know, I think maybe his manager or whatever had hipped him to it, and I know he had heard of us, and he came to one of those things and came up afterwards as we were, you know, greeting everyone, and he came up and introduced himself, and I was like, oh my God, I was so starstruck.
Yeah.
Like, Sean Bevan's here.
Yeah, like, did you know that before you started playing?
No,
or?
No.
Good.
I mean, they, like, you're on stage, and they basically, like, you know, our management at the time just, you know, door opens, and then people just start filing in and then sitting down.
Yeah.
So it's not like, you know, you're playing and doing all this stuff on stage like you would normally be in front of your crowd.
Yeah.
But you feel kind of like an idiot because they're just sitting down.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, like, because I went on tour with CKY a lot,
right.
You know, and just would go out and introduce the band and yell, and then jump on stage for "Bite It, You Scum" and scream into the mic for that. But like, I've gone with them too, like playing at like radio stations, and like they're a band that totally plays off of the crowd. Yeah. So the energy that happens when they're playing is something that they play off of, and they play into, and you feel that. And if you don't have that, it sort of like shifts the performance.
Yeah.
So it's got to be crazy to sit down and do that for just 20 random strangers. Like, I don't even know if these guys like this kind of music or whatever, you know.
Right. I mean, like, we've done, you know, Kill Hannah and Filter. Like, we've done so many of those radio things where you have to go in, you meet the program director, and you play for like 20 ticket winners on the air, and you play like acoustic and stuff. And that's one thing that's part of the job. And like, it's cool.
And it's cool.
Yeah, and they get to see a more intimate version, especially coming from rock bands like, you know, like Filter, which is known for just being, you know, this like huge industrial force, and then like we're sitting there playing acoustic. But no, but that's
I always think of like on Howard Stern when then Dave Grohl does, and like Baba Booey's like, do Everlong, like and they play that acoustic, but it was cool.
Yeah,
but
it's cool.
No one had ever heard it that way.
Right, totally. Yeah. But then that experience, like showcasing for labels, like where like it's a full production show, but there's no crowd, and you have to pretty much act and play and appear to be like you're just this thundering force. Especially back then, you know, that was still when labels were a big deal. You know, like this was still.
And now it's like transforming you back to when you're like a little kid with like a broomstick. You know, you're like pretending in your bedroom.
I know.
You know?
When, like, actually, like kids that are doing that in their bedroom literally are getting signed. I don't even know what's going on anymore. But being signed to a major back then, you know, we came at the very end of it during the shift. Yeah. You know, iTunes and Napster had Napster been out for a couple years, but the file sharing and downloading, it was relatively new, and labels they weren't really ahead of it yet, and so they basically were just like, nah, nothing will change, like business as usual.
I just love that. Like, I just picture like some fat cat, like, nope, I ain't moving. Yeah. I ain't changing. It's like, nothing. Well, everything else is. Yeah, so see you later.
So like, yeah, so it was very important, especially at that time. Like, if you were on a major label, it still meant something, and it still does. But like, but it was. That was the make or break thing. It was very competitive, and it was like, and we found out, we were rejected like by many labels actually. Like we did demo deals with Atlantic and stuff, and they have, we did like 3 songs for them, and then they were like, nah, we passed, they're not ready yet, or whatever. We met with guys, the president of Warner Brothers, like literally, basically called, got a call from my manager at 1 a.m. one night, being like, you guys are getting on a plane at 6 a.m. You have a meeting with the president of Warner Brothers in LA, and we're in Chicago at the time. It's like, okay, and basically show up, go into this huge office. He's sitting at one end of the table,
like in Christmas Vacation.
It's literally like that. He's all the way at the other end, and we're at this end, and we're just sitting.
Get me somebody, anybody.
Yeah, and we're just sitting there, and he just looks at us. He's like, it's cool, but I don't think you guys are ready yet. End of meeting. And I was like, oh, you couldn't have just said that over the phone?
Yeah,
like, you had
seriously.
to fly us up to LA to do that? So, yeah, and then eventually...
That sucks, because you kind of got to be feeling like, all right, sweet, if this is
you're in the room with this bigwig, like, and you know who he is, and he's like, the CEO of the company, and it's, it's a big deal to be in a room with him alone, and then he's like, yeah, I'm not feeling it yet. Like, do some more stuff, and it's like, okay, like, why are...
What are we doing
I guess
here?
we just fly back to Chicago now.
Oh, man.
But eventually, it was, like I said, it was competitive back then, so we were kind of like an undeniable thing going on in Chicago. We were... Our singles, before we were signed and anything like that, were on the radio. We're on major radio stations, and we were #1. We were beating out people like Oasis and all that stuff.
Damn.
And so a couple guys... took notice of that. Carson Daly was actually doing A&R for Columbia, and that's how we met him. And he flew us out to New York when he was still doing TRL even. And
wow.
So we had interest with that. And then eventually, the head of A&R at Atlantic, John Rubley, great guy, still a dear friend to this day. I guess one of our songs, showed up on his desk, and listened to it, got it. Immediately, understood what we were doing. Yeah. And was like, I want to come to Chicago and see these guys play, but I don't want to see them. But I know they sell out shows, and I want to see them do it, basically in a private room, like a stage, whatever. We did the same thing this time again, and it's just for one dude, playing like we did like 5 songs, full light show, all that thing, and he's there. And then right after the performance, he was like, we pretty much, he was like, I'm prepared to offer you guys a deal. So it was.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So it was.
That's rad. What's crazy to me though is like, why wouldn't you want to see it in the show? How they sold, if they're on their own selling out shows. For me, I'm obviously clearly I'm not an A&R guy, but I would think like, I want to see what they're creating, because on their own they're generating this buzz. People are following this band, they're loving this band. Like, why wouldn't I want to see how that's happening?
I think I agree, and they do, and they know that. Like when they show up at shows, and
so they already know that part. That's why they're.
And that's
going,
the thing, and they want to see it.
Sense.
Like, we want to see, can they be in an uncomfortable situation and still look like like the professionals?
We're gonna find them a random hole in the wall,
right? And like nowadays, there's so much content.
Yeah.
And there's so many young kids that want to be rock stars, and like they think it's just an overnight process, and I think
it's not.
Yeah, right. Now maybe, but
no, it still isn't.
But you know what I mean. But back then it was like they wanted, when you sign to a deal, you're supposed to be there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it was like if you had the look, that's one thing, and you had the songs, that's cool, and you have a generated crowd, but like, are they the real deal? And that's basically what those things are.
They're testing that.
Pretty much, yeah. And that, like, we always did well in those things, like it was so awkward.
Right.
It's so weird.
But everybody just got it
so
together.
Weird to be jumping around like a monkey on stage when you're playing a nobody. and like, or like, or you can, I mean, like, you can see in the room, you can see them just sitting on the couch, like,
Yes.
Yeah, it's like, man, I can't read this guy. Does he hate?
Let me fill this out on my clipboard.
Yeah. Let me just check. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. That is awkward.
So, so back to the beginning of that with Sean Bevan. We met him and we were all pretty much starstruck, and then it was.
So every one of the band members were big fans.
We knew. And so it was like when he. Atlantic, before we got signed, we did a demo deal for Lava Atlantic, and we wanted Sean to produce it, like the 3 songs, and so they flew him to Chicago. We did like a week of recording, and then they initially passed on it, and then, like I said, Rubley came in a few months later, and then we ended up signing to Atlantic Records. And then when it was coming down to start talking about picking a producer for the record, it was unanimous within the group. We're Sean Bevan. Like, I
mean, you had that choice.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, for both of the albums on Atlantic with Killhannah. Yeah, like the second one was for the sophomore record. We had like a list of producers that we were interested in. You know, like Rich Costi and all these big guys and. Guys, albums have done so many records that we all just adore, and one by one we'd have to cross off the list, like they're busy, or that's the label won't pay that much for the, you know what I mean. But the first record, it was unanimously we were just like, Sean Bevan, like we have to have to use him. And then the second record we ended up going with Jonny K, who did all the Disturbed records, and that's, he was a Chicago guy. And he was looking to break out of the box. He's known for that metal scene, which we're not that kind of band.
Right.
But he's like, I want to do more stuff like Jane's Addiction and The Cure, and that's what you guys are, and Pumpkins, and that's what you guys are kind of doing. Yeah. And we met with Jonny a few times, and he was just, the coolest guy. He totally understood. He listened to the demos that we'd been working on, and he was like, he wanted to do it, and then we realized like this guy's, it's gonna be perfect, and then that record turned out to be our biggest one, and we still listen to that record, like fans still go crazy over that, and that came out 13 years ago.
Damn. Damn, that's crazy. So are you all from Chicago, or? Yeah,
so Killhannah's from Chicago. Same thing with Filter. Like, I mean, Richard Patrick, he's originally from Cleveland. He was in 9 Inch Nails. Yeah. He's the original guitar player with Trent. And so when he left Nails and started Filter, he partnered up with Brian Leesgang, who was also in 9 Inch Nails for a bit. And Leesgang is a Chicago guy. And so they just relocated. They did Short Bus in Cleveland, but then relocated to Chicago. So yeah, basically Killhannah, Filter, it's all Chicago.
Yeah.
But we're all out here now.
Yeah.
Like we've all been out here for years.
And is that how you kind of got in the mix with Filter, or?
No, with Filter, like, so I met Rich back in Chicago. Like I was about like 18 or 19 years old.
Wow. In
Killhannah, pre-record deal, and so we're just we're getting a pretty large fan base in Chicago, and that's the thing about Chicago. It's like it's such a cool music scene. It's so incestuous. Like everyone's played in bands together. Everyone knows each other. Everyone's really supportive of each other, and so like you go anywhere and you'll be like, oh, there's Billy Corgan, and like, oh, there's Nash Cato from Urge Overkill, oh, there's Scott Lucas from Local H. Yeah. And that was the same thing with Rich, and that's actually Brian Leesgang, who was in Filter. He co-founded Filter with Rich. Was a friend of mine. I had been working with him on some stuff, and he introduced me to Rich. We struck up a friendship, and this was like right after that big record, Take a Picture, came out and all that stuff. So Filter was like, doing huge, really well. And
you had not been signed yet with Killhannah?
No, Killhannah hadn't been signed yet. That was just about to happen. And Rich and I started spending some time together hanging out, and there was talk about maybe bringing me on as an additional guitar player. I mean, I was still so young. Yeah. And it was like, obviously, it's one of your idols, and you're hanging out with this dude, you listen to his records, and now he's your friend, and you're hanging out with him at bars. I was underage, like, and it was such a cool thing. And then it came down to being like, we're about to get signed, and it was like, Kill Hannah is like my thing, with these guys. It's our thing. We started it from nothing and built it. We got to see it through.
Yeah.
And then Richard and I like lost touch for a few years. He kind of jumped ship on Filter in like 2002. He had some. I mean, he's very vocal about it. He had some substance abuse issues.
Yeah.
And he took some time off from that, and then started a band with the guys from Stone Temple Pilots called Army of Anyone in 2005.
Cool.
Did that for a bit, and then 2008, like he came back in with Filter, reformed the group, new members and stuff, and we actually reconnect. We hadn't spoken in I don't know, like 3 or 4 years, and we're in Germany, Kill Hannah. We're playing these 2 huge German festivals, Rock am Ring and Rock am Park, and they're like the 2 biggest ones there, and they're amazing. And
dude, those festivals out there,
they're insane.
Yeah,
they're the best. I mean, those are the best festivals. I mean, like Lollapalooza,
it's just seas of people.
Oh yeah, Lollapalooza and Coachella, those are amazing. I love Lolla so much, and we played it, and it's great. But like, it doesn't compare to some of these festivals like Glastonbury. And
I've been to that.
Reading and Leeds and all those things. It's just like you look out and there's 300, 400,000 people. Like, what?
It's nuts. Yeah.
So, we were sitting backstage, like we're all, all the artists are just kind of packed, very tight knit, and I'm sitting there and I hear this voice like, oh yeah, Kill Hannah, I know those guys. And I'm like, is that Richard Patrick? I didn't even know they were gonna be there. I didn't know Filter was a thing again. And I walked out. I was like, Rich. And he barely remembered me, but like it was. Then we got to talking. He's like, oh yeah, like, and we just kept in touch. And then of course, like 2010, 2011, the opportunity came up where they were about to go. They were on tour and they were having an issue with their guitar player. He just needed to take some time off.
Yeah.
And I got the call from their tour manager. It was like, hey, like, I don't know what your schedule is, but we're going on tour with Bush and Chevelle for like 3 or 4 months. It's starting like in a couple days. Like we're having a little slight hiccup right now. Like, are you available? And it turned out that I was. And I went in and met with Rich and the bass player at the time, and just went over a couple things. He's like, all right, you got it. Are you interested? I'm like, yeah, hell yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's so, like, awesome.
So it was cool. And of course, like, I'd known the dude for a long time. And being a fan, like, it was like, I know these songs like the back of my hand. Like, it's just,
okay,
gonna
cool.
be, yeah.
I was going to ask that because I feel like that's always the story when, like, I sat down with Jim Fairchild from Modest Mouse.
Yeah.
And his was a similar story, like, just a couple days before, like, all right, cool, we're going. It's like, whoa, there's a whole catalog of songs I need to figure out.
I mean, I met with Rich, and like I think they told me day of, it was like, it was like noon, and then they're like, hey, can you be out in Malibu in a couple hours and like just play, take a picture, maybe Hey Man I Shot, and then there's a song at the time that they were on that record that they were promoting that I had actually never heard, and I was like, oh yeah, sure, of course. And then I listened to it real quick, and then got in my car and drove to Malibu.
Oh, I didn't even get to try to play it.
No, I just went there.
To it. Yeah.
I mean, like I hear things and I can play it.
Right.
And, that's part of my job as being a studio musician, a session player, and a hired gun. Is like just sort of you're supposed to be able to just do it.
Yeah.
And so. Yeah, I showed up there. We all hung out for a minute, and then just went over acoustically. And then they were like, "Cool, it's yours if you want it." I'm like, "Awesome, yes." And then basically, I had like one night to really learn the set. They gave me the set list. There was like set list A, B, and C. Whatever. Like what we rotate. Most songs are the same, but then you change out a couple. So whatever. But they gave me pretty much the entire catalog. It was like, yeah, just go over this. So like in one night I went through like 27 songs.
Oh man.
And like a lot of them like because like Filter songs, like there's so many hits, and it's like okay. But then all of a sudden, because it's you're doing it all in one night and it's crunch time, and a lot of the songs are somewhat similar riffs, and it's like, oh man, they're starting to bleed together. And like, then I had to go in and do like I went in with the band, the other guys, and the whole crew and everything, because they were doing like full production rehearsals. I mean, this tour was starting in a couple days.
Yeah.
And so I went in there, and it wasn't overwhelming, but it was definitely like, I hope I'm ready. And of course, like after like one song, once you get in that groove, and I was like, this is exactly whatever. Yeah. And then of course, like, tour bus came to the rehearsal studio and picked us up, and that was it.
Damn.
And like,
so where was that first tour? Like,
that was a U.S. tour with Filter. It was a U.S. tour, and it was Bush was headlining, Chevelle was main support, and Filter, and it was huge venues. It was great. And of course, like, we've known Bush and Chevelle, like, we've all known each other for so many years, so it was basically just like, hanging out with your friends.
Yeah.
But it was like, it was like 3 months or something, and during that time, Rich and I would be talking on the tour bus and talking about songwriting, and he'd heard a lot of the stuff that I was doing. I mean, he liked Kill Hannah from before, and like, and also like he'd heard a lot of my solo stuff that I was working on, and he was like, dude, we should write together if you're interested. I'm like, yeah, totally. And so we got off that tour, and then we had a couple more fly dates after that, but like, I'd say like at the beginning of the new year in 2012, like he and I just started demoing together.
Yeah.
And then it just went from there.
So my question is, like, when you went on tour with Filter, was Kill Hannah like kind of on a break or something, or how did that open up for you, and then you sort of went that?
Yeah. Well, in 2008, we'd been out. Kill Hannah had been out on the road for now about 2 years straight, no breaks.
Yeah,
because our record,
that's a healthy life.
Yeah, right. The record came out in the summer of the second record came out in the summer of 2006. So we did Lollapalooza. Record came out, and then like back on tour, and so we were pretty much playing all over the world with that record, for 2 years, nonstop. So in the fall of 2008, we had about 2 weeks off before we were going. We just finished a long U.S. run, and we had about 2 weeks off before we were going back to the U.K. to do another 2 or 3 months a headlining tour, and we were all like very overworked.
Yeah.
We're all exhausted.
Yeah.
But no one wanted to admit it.
Right.
So everybody kind of internalized it and whatever. And I was just like I didn't feel like I was in a good place with myself.
Yeah, that's why I can't imagine when you say 2 years straight. It's it's exhausting.
And I'm talking literally with like no breaks.
Yeah.
Maybe
crazy.
we had Christmas off and like, New Year's.
Yeah.
But like for the most part, like we were gone. And we all had like very serious relationships with our girlfriends and whatnot, and like
I was actually thinking that too. I was like, that's nearly impossible.
It was pretty much impossible.
Yeah,
but like, I mean, I'm not, and in no way would I ever be complaining, because I mean
no, it's just being
like,
real.
Yeah, like we saw the world. Like,
right,
you're playing these shows. It's amazing. The fans were incredible. They still are, and it's
I've had those same kind of feelings, even with the Jackass Viva La Bam years of like, like you're bitching and moaning. It's like, dude, it's still hard and it's exhausting, and it puts weight on your friendships, and it really like, it's a lot.
I can't tell you how many times that I'd be in my bunk on the tour bus and just privately to myself wishing that I had a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah,
because it was like, and it sounds so.
And then you take that back immediately.
Of course, the second that you walk on stage,
right,
and you see those fans,
right,
and you're playing somewhere exotic or somewhere, and like it's.
But you're allowed to have those moments
absolutely.
of thought.
I mean, I'm a human,
right?
It's like like. I get lonely. I miss my girl. I miss my friends. I miss my family. I miss being in one city.
Yeah.
For an extended amount of time.
But people don't know that until you do it. Like if you're at the 9-to-5, you're like, God, what I wouldn't give to go do that.
That was the catch-22. So like, I was totally jealous of like my friends that got to like hang out with my girlfriend or like whatever and like see her every day, and I didn't get to. And it's like, man, I wish I could do that. And then of course you take it all back. Like I said, the second you get on stage, you're like, this is why we do it.
Right.
And that all goes away. But then of course, like you're back in the routine, you're back on the bus, or you're in the hotel, you're in a new city every day. And it's glamorous. Don't get me wrong, but it has its perks, but it's also really, really, really hard. And not everyone can do it. I've had guys, especially in the filter crew, like crew guys that have been like really itching to go out. They're predominantly studio dudes that have been, you know, engineers that have worked in studios, had not a lot of tour experience, but have been like, you know, I really want to go out. And after 2-3 months, they're like, I'm never touring again. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, because it's hard.
Yeah, that's enough for me.
Like, yeah. And I was like, and it's, yeah, there are, it's like I said, like it can be really cool, and you're jet setting around, and there's, you know, all our eyes are on you, and you're doing interviews, and you know, you're pushing your product, and like, it's really cool, you know, a lot of attention and all that. But at the end of the day, like, you know, like, it gets hard, it gets lonely, you get exhausted, and you do hit that breaking point after several months where it's like, it's time to go home. Like, I'm ready to go home. Yeah. Especially with Filter, like my singer Richard has 2 children, wonderful wife. He's such a great dad, and like, he, you know, he's one of those hands-on dads. Like, he's just there, you know? And it's, you know, for the first, you know, I'd say up until like 2 years ago, we were just gone again, like gone 10 months out of the year. Wow. And it was really hard for him. Obviously, like, you know, there's things you can do. He's sitting there in the back lounge of the bus with his laptop, on Skype with his kids, having breakfast with his kids. And obviously, you make it work, but that's not the same. And it's like, right. You know, I'm not married and I don't have kids, but you know, I still like my time to myself. I still want to decompress. Yeah. And like after a while, like, you know, after, you know, month 4, month 5, you start to feel it, where it's just like, definitely. It's like, you know, and you're playing an hour and a half every night, and it's just like, all right, like, I'm ready to go home. Like, I'm sick of my band. Yeah. I love my guys, but I'm just, we're all sick of each other. You need a break from it, because I'm sick of my crew. Like, people are starting to fight, and then like, and then I have to be the one, like, I'm the lenient boss. So like, with Filter. So like,
well, that was that talk of like, when we were doing Jackass, Viva La Bam, all those years, every day you're basically put into a situation where you have to hang out with those friends. Yeah. And I have a whole bunch of other friends.
Yeah, me too.
And so then you go, I love you guys, but if you force me to be around you anymore, like, I'm going to kill you. Yeah. Like, I can't stand, like, I like to bounce around and go, hey, I see these friends. That's cool. What's up, man? Life's good. Got some things going. We chat. Then go over to those friends. Then that. But when you're just put together and always have to be together, and you're always filming, you're doing you sound like you're bitching if you say, ooh, but it's like, try it. I dare you to try being around the same group of people. I know, for 2-3 years straight. Totally.
I know so many people that, like, you know, friends I used to have in Chicago that, you know, they're nowhere near the music business or anywhere in the arts, and have been like, man, I would kill to do what you do. I'm like, no, you wouldn't. Right. I'm like, you really wouldn't. And I guarantee you, because I know you, I know the second you would be so uncomfortable. Yeah. After 2 weeks, you'd break. I know you. You're too fragile.
I know, exactly.
And that's the thing. Like, we all knew at the beginning when we started touring, and I started touring young. I was like 19 or 20. And you know, after a couple weeks, if you're meant for it or not. Yeah. Especially back then, like, you know, like, the label wasn't giving us tour support yet, you know, so like, we weren't on nice buses yet. We were like driving ourselves around in a van, doing loops around the country. Yeah. You know, driving 14 hours after a gig, not sleeping, and you know, like, I feel like if I weren't meant to do it, I would have known back then, like, this is too much.
Yeah, like, I think you're absolutely right. You know so quickly, and it's funny. It's not that people don't have the talent. It's not that, but there's so many elements that go into whether or not you can kind of hack it or make it in either music or in filmmaking or whatever you're doing. Because what I do now is I'm a camera guy on, you know, just a union camera guy for TV and movie, and what I do
is... Your schedules are crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy amount of hours, and my wife will be like, what? Like, I'm like, yeah, I know you couldn't do this. Yeah. Like, it beats the crap out of you. Yeah. But certain people know it and certain people don't, and it's funny because I actually have a therapist that I was like talking with, and she was like, yeah, I tried to do the film business when I was like 22. She said I did it for like 2 months. I was like, yeah, not for me. And she moved on, and now she's a therapist that works with everybody. I'm like, that seems like taxing to me to be taking on everybody's stuff. But but yeah, people that have tried it go, God, that's crazy. The hours that you're away from your family, you're away from your friends and this, and you go into these time warps of like, dude, where you been? It's like, oh, I was doing a movie for 3 months and then I don't know what happened. Or when you're on tour, because I would tour with CKY a lot for extended periods of time. I'd go around the world with them, and yeah, you just come back out like out of some portal, like, hey, where's everyone? They're like,
and you're expecting everything to stay the same. And it's like people have kind of moved on.
Exactly.
There's resentments. I had a lot of friends, like some of my buddies that I'd grown up with, like since we were like, little kids, best friends, that I was able to, like successfully for many years was able to balance both my career and then my personal life and friendships and stuff.
Yeah.
Where, like I've never been one to be like, have a big head about shit and whatever. Right. But I did get it from like, I would, a week goes by, 2 weeks, and it turns into months and whatever. And then it's like, I call a friend and I could obviously detect some resentment. and they'd be like, the phone works.
Some venom.
They'd be like, well, you could have called. I mean, like, well, you know where I am. The phone works both ways, bro.
Right.
I don't know. So like then, of course, like I lost touch with a lot of my oldest friends, and then it was sort of like, well, I mean, if they're, they've been supportive in the past, but they're not being supportive now. It's like I can't. I'm out. Like I gotta. This is what I do for my, this is my career.
Exactly.
And it's hard. And I hope they would understand it. Now I have so many friends that are still in my life and that understand it. And a lot of my, like a lot of the guys that I know are all in this industry, either film or music or whatever. So that we understand, we get it. We understand schedules. If you don't see somebody for a few months, they're busy. They're off filming or they're on tour. And it's like, we come back, we meet up and nothing's changed. We get it.
Yeah.
But
and that's crazy because like when my wife moved out here, we both grew up in Westchester together,
right? And
then when she moved out here, it's a big shift for her to go. People aren't around, and I don't see my friends. And this, I'm like, yeah, that's kind of LA. Is that thing that everybody's moving and doing things and out and about, and then. Nobody questions anything though, and then you see him a couple months later, and you go, oh damn, what have you been up to?
Yeah.
And then it's it's fun. It's kind of fun because it's like you checking back in.
Totally. And I remember that being really weird when I had to move back here in 2009. And I mean,
were you back living in Chicago?
I was in Chicago. Yeah. So like I left. Well, that was what we were talking about. In 2008, I took time off from Kilhanna.
Yeah.
I didn't go on that tour.
Who did? Somebody else filled in?
Yeah, we got a buddy that had been in another band that had opened for us a year before.
Cool.
Great guitar player, producer as well. And he filled in like last minute. Came in and did that run, and then it was just me sort of like I was trying to figure out if I wanted to stay in the band or do other things, like join, I had all these songs that I was writing, and it was like, I don't know if I want them to be Kilhanna songs.
Yeah.
I feel like I should move on. I feel like I've done this for so long. Like I right out of high school, I'm in this band, and like we came up together and we got popular together and all this stuff. And I felt like it was like, it wasn't like I'm meant for more. It was just like I want to do other things with with other. I want to work with other artists. I want to do see where that takes me, and I can't just be defined by one thing. Some people are really comfortable with that, but I don't think I was. And
well, you go through it like not to jump in, but I went through that as well.
Yeah.
With Jackass, with those things. I didn't do the second and the third movie.
Right. And
I go, what's going on? Like, what's up with you? And I kind of went through that similar thing of at 19 years old, we were shooting the pilot of Jackass, and I went and did that all through my whole 20s. And so then at that point, like towards the end of my 20s, it was this feeling of like, what the hell, like what else is there or whatever. Right. And it's not, I wasn't too good for anything like that. It was just, I just had this own personal, like, I don't know if it's identity crisis, but it was something of like, what am I, like, where am I headed and what's going on with this? Because you're sort of defined as Rab himself, the guy that shits on things and gets drunk and does that, and then you're like, well, but maybe I want to try something else.
Right.
And it's difficult to go in, especially because people, what are you idiot? Like I remember I went and shot some little skits and just trying, when we were younger, we would do that with the CKY stuff, was shooting little skits and stupid things. And I went and tried doing that.
Well, that's where we all fell in love with you guys.
Yeah.
Like all those little things.
Yeah. And I was kind of trying to get back to that a little bit of just enjoying it again instead of like being the monkey that was dancing.
Right.
It was sort of like, how do you get back to enjoying what you're doing? And for me, it was like, I just want to shoot these stupid little skits. And even if they were stupid, I don't care. I just needed that outlet. And in that time, Jackass 2 was happening, things, and I was doing little skits, and people were like, oh, so stupid, go back and do Jackass. And it was like, whatever, I just have to do this. Yeah. And I had to follow that. So I could totally relate to you feeling like you needed to find what else was out there, and it's not that you're better or worse or anything. It was just exploring yourself.
And again, like we were exhausted, and I maybe it's just me, but I guess I was just the only one that like was very vocal about it towards the end of 2008, where I was just like, I need to take time to myself.
Right.
And figure some stuff out. And figure out myself, because I was like, I like you get into patterns on the road, like some, behaviors that like you don't take care of yourself as much,
Yes.
Because it's just like the schedule is crazy, and it's amazing. It's a lot of fun, but then you do it every single night. And it's just like, on top of just also being mentally exhausted, like you're physically exhausted. And I just felt it was like, I just need to take a step back for a minute. And like because there was so much momentum still at that time. And I guess, I can say now, I know that like some of the guys, they're very supportive, of course. Kill Hannah, we're all still brothers. We're still best friends. We still talk every day.
Yeah.
But I could, I could tell like there was, like there was a little resentment, of course, that I got. Maybe I was, I was leaving him in the wind, and that wasn't the case. It was just like I kind of had to see where this was going. And of course, Billy Howardell from A Perfect Circle and I had been friends for about a year or so at the time, and he had a new project called Ashes Divide, and he called me, like summer of 2009, and was like, what are you up to, man? And I was like, well, by now it had officially been announced that I had left Kill Hannah.
Yeah.
And they were going to go on without me, and so Billy called and was like, what's happening? Like, are you available to do some stuff? I'm like, yeah. And I was like, actually, coincidentally, I'm moving to Los Angeles. And he's like, oh, great, perfect. So like I came here in the summer of 2009. Nice. And immediately, like the next day I was in rehearsals with Billy and the guys, and it was like, okay, like cool. And it was so, like I'm so used to Kill Hannah and that group of guys. It was it was a little bit of an adjustment to be like, oh, I'm in a new band with new people. Like, this is really strange. And,
it is.
Of course, like I love these guys. These guys are huge players. I'm fans of these guys, and like it's like, but it was so different.
But yeah, it's not the comfortable feeling that
Yeah, and it was just but that's what I wanted. I liked the idea of doing what I do, but just in a different setting, and like and seeing how it goes. And then of course through that, then like came other opportunities and Filter and all that, and then I ended up writing a couple Filter records, and which changed everything for me, and in a great way. But then of course, like Kill Hannah, like it sort of like everybody sort of went off and did their own thing in around 2010 anyway. Like Matt, the singer Divine, moved to New York. He was in the big Broadway production of Spider-Man.
Oh yeah.
So he was he was busy doing that.
He was doing the music for it, or he was in it. Oh
yeah.
wow.
Yeah, he had a big role in it.
Wow.
So
he was also into the acting world as well.
Yeah, totally. And then our drummer, of course, plays for Kesha and some other pop bands. So like we were all just scattered. And Kill Hannah kind of just, didn't go away, but it was just sort of like, we're not touring, we're not releasing anything new. And we kind of, in 2012, we got together to do like one of our big hometown Chicago shows around Christmas. Like we used to do our annual Christmas thing, and it felt right. We did it again in 2013, and then 2015, spring of 2015, we all got on the phone. It was basically like, fans are, I mean, we've kind of haven't done anything for 5 years.
Yeah.
And we, like, of course, like everyone's super busy with what they're doing, me with Filter and Elias and Matt. And it was like, well, we either gotta end this or do a new record or something. And we basically just came up with the idea, like, well, why don't we do some farewell shows, like in Chicago, like 2 shows at Metro, our home venue.
Yeah.
Sell it out and just, you know, see what happens. And then it turned out to being like, okay, well, now if we do that, then we have to go back to Europe and make those fans happy and whatever. So it turned into this kind of cool reunion tour, farewell tour thing for us in 2015 as Kill Hannah.
Yeah.
And it was so strange. I remember us landing in London, getting on the tour bus, and it was almost like 7 years had passed since we'd all been on a bus together, and like nothing changed. We still had the same inside jokes.
Yeah, like, I know, it's crazy.
It was so surreal. Like it was like, it's like, oh my god, it's like we all left and we came back and we're still the same people. We're still doing the same dumb shit.
Yeah,
like,
and there's a chemistry there. That's
of course. And
well,
we always have that. And there was always, and we had such a that was the last 2 months of 2015 were some of the most memorable of all of our careers. It was
that's
just
awesome.
Yeah, it was really great. And then, we ended it. We said farewell, and on paper, Kill Hannah is done, but I mean, we'll see what happens,
Yeah.
But yeah, it was, and then we all went back to business with our other projects. So it was
nice.
So,
but it was more of a happier, kind of.
At this point, I think it was like, like I was the first. Well, just me in 2008 leaving, and it was kind of uncertain. And then of course, they got the replacement guy, and they went on, and they continued, and then, a year or two later, that's when it just sort of, everyone kind of went off and did their own thing. So it was cool to get back, to reunite.
Yeah.
Let's make this really memorable for us and the fans. Let's really do it, and we did. And it was like, it was bittersweet, just because, now we're faced with this whole thing, like, oh man, it is coming to an end. Like this is a farewell tour. And we're just getting into it again. Yeah. With like being around each other and playing these songs and seeing the fans and seeing the crowds, seeing the reaction and all the hype about it. It was like, man, I want to keep doing it. We should keep doing it. Let's not do it. Let's not break up.
Because it's almost easier just to rip the Band-Aid off. Yeah. Like in 2008 when you're like, I just need the time later.
Yeah.
And then when you're like, kind of all in a good place, it's really hard to like, slowly pull the Band-Aid off.
So it's, and like I said, we're all still like really, really close. We're on like a
that's awesome
text thread. So we're constantly in contact all day, every day.
That's awesome.
Messing with each other.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
And talking about, future stuff for Kill Hannah, if it works with our schedules.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I know, because I know that's like, I don't know, it's very important to have that, like when you have such a close bond with people. That was something that for us, I think all the CKY guys, it's sort of, we knew that was important, and especially when Ryan died, was like, how do you, how, with the history that we have, how could you not have a good relationship? And there's still stuff that's like not exactly totally smooth, but I've made that choice on my own to just know, like, to just kind of let bygones be bygones, and just know that there's such a good, strong bond.
And that's the thing, like the bonds, those are important. And after, time does heal some things, and you kind of get the courage and gather strength to address certain things that bothered you in the past, and talk about it. I mean, if these are your homies and you guys all came up together, and same thing. And like, I have a separate bond with Filter than I do with Kill Hannah. Like they're completely different, but like Filter, Richard Patrick is like my brother, and like, we've had our issues and within the band, within that band, but then like, after a while you talk about, I mean, I left Filter for a bit. I left Filter for like a year and a half. Yeah. To do other things. And it was like, Rich and I didn't talk for a while. I mean, I was still kind of helping out behind the scenes to make my transition out as easy as possible for them. Yeah. Just being the lead guitar player and co-songwriter, to just leave all of a sudden. Yeah. it's kind of a, people notice, and it's like, and of course, like like in both of those bands, you want them to succeed, especially like if you're not going to be there, like you want to make sure that that train still keeps rolling with that momentum and that force. And I did that with Filter, and I helped a lot to make sure that, like, I had crew guys calling me from the road and being like, dude, like, we need you to come back. And I'm like, I can't, but I'll help out any way I can. Yeah. Like, to make sure that it...
to come on back.
Yeah, like... Yeah. I mean, I remember when now I'm fully back in Filter, like, you know, like, as of 2016, and I came back to do some shows as, like, a favor to Rich and the guys, and then I just ended up sticking around, and it kind of works with our schedules the way it is now. Like, we can all do what we want to do and also still play those songs and play to great crowds and great shows. So it's like, yeah, it works. But I remember when I was, they were just about to start pre-production and rehearsals, and I went in to grab a couple of stuff, my gear, and I let them use, some of the cases and whatever. And I was like, yeah, this will be great. You guys will be fine. Don't worry. And I remember I got home, and about 45 minutes later, I'm getting blown up by the tour manager, by the front of house engineer, by my stage manager, by some of the other, like, one of the other band members. He's like, you gotta come back. This is not gonna work with this new guy. You need to come back. And this is 40 minutes into it. And Rich actually wasn't even at that day of rehearsal. I guess it was just the band.
This isn't gonna work.
And they're just like, this isn't gonna work. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. I literally left a half an hour ago. Like, you guys got to make it work.
You're like, I didn't even get home.
Yeah, I didn't even get home yet. And then, like, a couple weeks later, like, the Filter's manager was calling me, and he's like, yeah, we're having some issues. Like, can you fly? Can we fly you out to, like, Oklahoma tomorrow morning? I'm like, whoa. I'm like, dude, this isn't. I left the band. Like, I can't just.
What part about I quit didn't you get?
Yeah, like, this is. I was like, if you can't figure it out with this guy, and if somebody can't come in that's already on the tour in one of the other bands, if somebody can't fix it, then, like, let me know, and then we'll work something out. Maybe I can do, like, the last, I'll do the next 2 months.
As soon as that cracks open a little.
Yeah, but, like, I didn't want to give too much, because it was like I was right in the middle of working with other artists and writing with other people, so it was just like I'm like, that's the last resort. Yeah. Like, call me only if there's no other solution. And then they got through it, everything it was fine. It was totally fine. And then, I took about a year, and I was writing, like, I was out with the band Cruella for a bit. The two girls, the DJs, they're amazing.
Like Cruella DeVille or something?
Well, no, they're like a huge EDM group. Like,
it just made me think that, like, Dalmatians or whatever.
Exactly. And so I started playing guitar for them for a little bit. We did a bunch of European festivals, and it's so drastically different from rock festivals and EDM festival. Like,
so EDM, is that, like, mainly DJ stuff?
Mm-hmm,
and then you're playing guitar to the DJ?
Yeah, so they had
the
rad. Two girls. Yeah, and the girls sing, and they're incredible singers. They're also DJs, and so it was at the time when they were incorporating a live band into
Damn, you're in a whole new world now.
Whole new world. So we had a drummer, my buddy Frank Zuma, who plays for Sum 41.
Okay.
So he's on one riser, and then me on the guitar. Yeah. And keyboards on another thing. And then the girls in the middle on this huge DJ throne, and they're singing, and it's pyro everywhere.
Damn, yeah.
I mean, dude, the money in the EDM world is insane.
Crazy, yeah.
I mean, it's just, and those festivals, like, I mean, we did, like, Austria and Germany and all that, and you're just like...
That's even crazier than the ones we were talking about.
I know, well, and it's crazy, because, I mean, these kids, like, these are rave EDM kids, so, like, they're just, I mean, it's just, I've never experienced anything like that. And coming from the rock world and, being out with the biggest bands that have ever existed, it's just a whole different world. I just think you're walking around backstage, and I'm like, I don't see a single instrument. Yeah, it's just like, it's like Calvin Harris and Avicii, and then they're like 20-person entourage just sitting on their laptop, just fucking around and catering. Yeah, and like all that stuff.
That's
and, like,
crazy.
I was like, man, this is so strange for me to be here. But it was cool. It was a great experience. Like,
I was just thinking when you said the rave thing, like back when we were in high school, it would be like a Dateline, like, watch out, parents, your kids are going to raves. And then there'd be kids with, like, pacifiers, eating ecstasy and shit.
I remember that. I grew up in the 90s. I remember that. Yeah, the candy ravers.
Yeah.
Popping ecstasy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. So okay, so you're out in that world and playing in that. And that's a whole.
And so I just did a handful of shows with them, and then Brian Leesgang, who used to be in Filter, he and I have been writing partners on and off over the years. So we actually went in the studio with them and came up with some cool original stuff. They wanted to, at that time,
with Corella.
At that time they wanted to break away, not fully from EDM, but like they kind of wanted to be. They saw themselves being like we're kind of like band oriented. Like we'd like to go out with like Banks and like Katy Perry or Taylor Swift, whatever. So it was like kind of our job to help facilitate and come up with cool ideas. And they're really talented songwriters and great lyricists as well. So came up with some cool stuff. In the end, it wasn't exactly where their label, whatever, was going from. So like, but it was still great, and they're great girls. And it's just. It's funny where everything kind of takes you, and like of course I got the call about filling in for some Filter dates in 2016, and I was like, yeah, it'll be fun. Like I'll just do a couple shows, and then it just ended. I kept getting calls from their management being like, could you do this one too? Could you do this one too? I'm
could you happen to be just back in the band?
Yeah, could you do this? I'm like, yeah, you know what, this is fun. Like, yeah, let's keep doing it. And so I'm glad. Like we still all have a great relationship, and like we've gotten to do. I mean, with Filter. I mean, with both bands, like, we've been all around the world several times. We've been everywhere. But with Filter, I've been places I never would have thought were possible to go to.
Yeah.
And I've been to the Middle East 3-4 times.
Damn, I was gonna say now some questions from Bam, because Bam connected us to do the show, and Bam's like, dude, you gotta ask him about the like playing for the troops.
Yeah, so we do that. So Filter, Filter's a pretty political band. We're very liberal, and like Rich has always been.
Yeah, it sounded like bleeding knuckle liberal or something on his thing.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, which I love. I think it's great. I mean, sometimes it gets us in a lot of trouble.
Dude, I did that thing that says I side with that website. And I did the whole questionnaire, and then I'm like a feminist with all these, and I'm more of a feminist than my wife is. All these other, and I was like, oh, I didn't even, like, I just answered it how I would think. Right. And then I was like, damn, I'm stupid liberal, but like, I don't want to be that libtard type that is like, oh, you can't listen to the other side, can't listen to anything.
That's the thing about Richard. Like, he's a very well-spoken dude. He's very knowledgeable. Right. He's, like, he watches both sides. Right. He wants to know both sides of the argument. But he has taken a firm stand. He knows what he is. Right. He knows where he stands.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Not at all.
But just keeping your mind open to like what the other side has to say, like, because to me,
that's what we do.
Yeah, on both sides of the equation, the left and the right, when you just fully say no, whatever the right says is wrong, and then you say no, whatever, then it's like, come on.
Yeah, you're doing the same thing. It's just noise. And so like, but he's good. He's good about, we understand what our fan base is. We know that we have a lot of our music is popular in red states and like, Trump supporters. We get it. Yeah. It just comes with the territory of being in a hard rock band. So Rich does some stuff on stage sometimes that gets us into trouble. Like, we've been fired by booking agents. Like, UTA just straight up fired us after one incident. Like,
for real?
Yeah.
What was the incident?
He came out. Okay, so we were doing this huge show, and it was us and Three Doors Down, actually. And I guess Three Doors Down, I guess, played the Trump inauguration. Like, they're big. They're big Trump guys, which is fun.
But it's just it's all good. It's just funny because I remember hearing about the Trump inauguration. It was like, try them, nope, try them, nope, try them, nope. Finally somebody said
of course. So Rich came out on stage. He came out in like full military camo, and he had put black paint all over his face. To basically. As like a metaphor for like the oil and all this stuff like that, and the greed, and he did his Trump bashing stuff on stage where he's just
with Three Door Down.
Well, they were there, but I guess they were kind of offended, and they were also represented by UTA, I believe, and so
were you guys were playing together?
Yeah. and it was just like I know that Rich's Filter has always been this band that's like it's pushing buttons. You know, the first single
from Nine Inch Nails. Come on,
yeah, I know
the whole
exactly.
entire...
And then the first single, "Hey Man, Nice Shot," you know, is about R. Bud Dwyer, the former senator, that publicly. Dude, executed himself.
When I was a little kid, that was like I saw that when I was like 6 years old.
On TV, yeah.
Because no, I saw it on Faces of Death.
Oh, right.
Because my brothers were watching it. I might have been 7, but it was like, what year did that happen? I forget. Like I think I was
70s.
Okay.
Maybe early 80s.
Early 80s, I thought. Yeah.
Early 80s.
I think I was like 7 years old. And I watched that on Faces of Death because my brothers were watching it. I was way too young to be watching this.
Well, I remember Faces of Death. I remember watching that as a kid.
Yeah.
But Rich, actually, because this was a live press conference that this guy called.
That's fucking crazy.
So Rich came home from school as like a teenager. You know, I think this is what has happened maybe like, very early 80s.
Yeah.
Came home and saw it on live TV, just saw this guy commit suicide, put a gun in his mouth and blow his head off.
Jesus
And so
Christ. Wow.
Yeah.
Like so when you think about that, like that's like, damn.
Yeah. So we've always been a controversial band. Now, when that song came out, a lot of people thought it was about Kurt Cobain, and it wasn't.
So the song was about Bud Dwyer.
Yeah. And so many,
but they thought Cobain because of the timing of
the way
Filter
that when Filter came out and debuted, it was fairly recent after Kurt had committed suicide, but no, Rich was like, I mean, that was sort of the mystique about it.
Right.
Is it about Kurt and whatever? So that generated, buzz publicity and buzz. But no, Rich was always like, no, I wrote that song when Kurt was still alive, man. He's like, that it only came out afterwards, and it's about this guy. It's about that thing. So we've always been a controversial band. So and we've always been pretty political. I mean, like Rich, right after September 11th, that record, the Filter record, Amalgamate, is a direct response from that. And then our record that we wrote together in 2013 was just a mixture of just current events and stuff going on. But so again, it gets us into trouble sometimes. But the cool thing about it is that we always say, Rich always says, you know what, like, respect the warrior, even if you don't respect the war. So we really do support our troops, all the men and women that serve. Yeah. And we've been fortunate enough to go over and play for the troops. Like, we've been to Kuwait a couple times, Iraq, Afghanistan. Just 2 months ago, we were in Abu Dhabi playing at for the Air Force and Marines. So yeah, every single time we get the USO or Stars for Stripes calls us and says, "You guys want to come back?" and we're like, "Absolutely."
Hell yeah!
It's one of the most humbling experiences, man. To be there, see what these guys do, and so we get, of course, like, they're excited that a rock band's on the bass, and
they're gonna get an awesome show.
Of course, and it's a part of home, coming to them, like, and it's a chance for us to get to see what they're doing. I mean, we walk around to, like, the EOD unit or the guys on the flight deck, and we meet a lot of these men and women that are serving, and it's really humbling. It puts a lot of things into perspective. Like,
for sure,
you realize that, like, these people are sacrificing their. We bitch about us being exhausted and being tired when we're touring. I'm in a rock band. I'm in a rock band and I'm tired.
Yeah.
And then, of course, like, you see people that are like, they're taking time out of their lives to go to these places to defend our way of life.
My brother
and for the rest of the world as well. Yeah. And I'm sure people that serve. I've had a bunch of friends growing up with that have served and did time in Iraq and in Afghanistan, and it's one of those things. That's why we keep going back when we get these opportunities. Like, absolutely. And, like, obviously we're never in real danger. I mean, but we, we were in Kandahar and Bagram, which is Kabul in Afghanistan. Yeah. And, like, we had to wear Kevlar when you're on those big C-130 planes with those cargo, huge planes that, like, carry tanks.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like, you got it. Like, you're flying in the Hindu Kush mountains. Like, there's insurgents in those mountains. There's things. There's RPGs. There's mortars. Like,
it's gnarly. My brother is a Marine sniper and was over there a whole bunch. Then he was like a mercenary after the fact, like doing the contract work. And he wrote a book about his first time over there, and it's pretty gnarly to read.
I'm sure.
And to get an insight of what he's gone through. I mean, he's totally deaf in his left ear from all the explosions.
Wow.
And all that stuff. Like, it's crazy because when you talk to him now, he's like, huh? He's like this old man, but you're like, but you know, it put into perspective for me is I'm like, that dude gave his hearing for our country to be free. And whether I necessarily agree with why we go to war or what, the, you know, everything, the greed behind all of that stuff, it doesn't matter. These people put their lives on the line just so that we can shoot shit on a podcast or go on Twitter and say, fuck you, Trump, you know, or whatever. Like, we're able to do that in this country because of the people that serve. And that's incredible.
That's the important thing, that when, you know, Filter we may be extremely liberal, and then you know, Rich has a platform. He's a famous singer, and he's got fans, and he's like, I'm going to tell you how I feel. You may not like it. You probably won't like it.
Right.
And so, but at the end of the day, his whole thing is like, you know, red versus blue, right, left, doesn't matter. The warrior, the men and women that serve, like, these are the people you have to respect, and no matter what's going on.
Yeah.
And they're giving up their life. They're sacrificing their free time, their time with their families, their lives.
Right.
You know, and especially, you know, just doing a tour for them is like a year and a half. You know, it's like, you know, when we were in Abu Dhabi, we got there at a pretty unique time where they were actually doing shifts on the base where a lot of units were going home and new reserves were coming out. So we're seeing a lot of new kids, young reservists that are like, oh, we just got here a week ago. I'm like, oh, how long are you going to be here till? They're like, probably 20. I'm like, oh, wow. So you're here. They're like, yeah.
Like, yeah, we just moved in. Yeah. This is our new digs for a while.
And so it's crazy. But like, you know, we have, all of us in the band, like, we have a collection of challenge coins and unit patches, like, in these, you know, we shake every single hand, you know, like, when we're out there. We'll do a meet and greet for 3 hours if we have to, just to meet everybody.
Yeah.
And it's just rad. Again, it's like, we've had soldiers come and be like, you guys are my favorite band of all time, can't believe you're here. Or guys being like, I don't even like your music, but the fact that you're an American and that you took the time to come here to see us, just awesome. Like, bring a piece of home, you know, to them. And that's the least I can do. Like, I'll do it. Yeah. Any day.
That's awesome. That's really cool to be a part of that. You think about like Bob Hope back in the day with like some Playboy babe. Yeah, exactly. And they're like, yeah, tits.
Yeah, and you know what? Though? It does a lot, and that's why they started doing it in World War II. It's like, it does boost morale, and it's, you know, to see just, you know, a face, you know, from your country, outside of the military, you know, just like and it's a reminder to them to know that, like, we don't take you for granted. You know? Like, we do support what you're doing. You know? Even if we don't support the war, we support you.
Yeah, you know? And that's super important, I think. Absolutely, obviously, after like Vietnam stuff, where people were not. You know, like the soldiers were not feeling supported either.
No, they'd come home and they would get spit on.
Yeah,
you know?
and it's terrible because you realize they don't have anything to do with it.
They didn't want to be there. They're
putting their life on the line for you to be able to spit on them.
Totally, and that's one of and you feel that when you're there, like you're very grateful for the opportunities that you have, and then, you know, especially the freedoms that we have. You know, any democracy in this world, like the fact that you can just wake up when you go out your house and go get coffee, you know, like, you know what I mean?
But you take that stuff for granted until you do it. My wife and I do work in Haiti, and we go down there a lot, and I will stay with our friends there in the village, and it's like, you know, there's no electricity, anything like that. So the sun's up, you're up, the sun's down, you're going to bed, and there's no running water, nothing. It's literally like stepping back 100 years, and you do absolutely realize how much we do take for granted. Yeah. And just going to get coffee, like, that's not a thing. Yeah. You know, like, I know. So that stuff, we really have it really good in this country, and it is because of our you know, the people that help protect our rights and our freedoms. And
listen, like, a lot of these guys, like, these men and women, they're not they're not necessarily, because they're in the military doesn't mean they support what's going on
right. No,
the political climate.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
Not at all. They have a job to do. That's what they think. They're like, we don't give a shit like who's in office.
Right.
We know what's happening, but like we're not focusing on that. We're focusing at our task at hand.
Right. And you have to, because I think if you got so emotionally involved with that, it would be dangerous to you and your job.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, so my brother is, that way. He's not very like politically outspoken, but I know where he stands with a lot of, his political beliefs, but he's not like out there going F this and that. Yeah. But because it is a job, and and he chose to do it when he was 18, and then throughout. I mean, he's older than I am. He's 42 or something now, and it just a couple years ago is when he finally was done. So I mean, he gave the better part of his life to doing that.
That's amazing.
And like 20 years, so. It's just
thank him from me.
Yeah, I will, man. It's funny because I think back like when I was young. So he was this badass Marine kid at 18 years old. He got the award for the best in boot camp.
Oh no!
And so then all these recruiters were coming to our house like, "Hey kid, you want to sign up?" I was like, "Nah, man, I'm not into that." Like the complete opposite person.
That's not my thing, bro. But check out this new CKY thing we shot.
Yeah, exactly. I just took a shit on that thing. Yeah. So yeah, it was exactly it. I was like busy getting kicked out of high school and shitting on things and ripping things off the shelves at stores. And
my buddy Bam just punched me in the dick.
Yeah. Like, I don't think you don't want to give me a gun. But yeah, man. No. It's funny, but so what do you got? What's happening now? You said you're doing a few shows with Filter.
Yeah, we're kind of working on some new material. It's kind of working at a snail's pace, just because Richard and I are both working on other projects, and we're just basically doing festivals and fly dates this season. So
okay.
Like we'll be I think everything's on officialfilter.com, all the dates, but I think we only have a few left for the remainder of the year. And
is that U.S. stuff? Or
it's all U.S.
Okay.
We're not doing the full. It's weird not to be on tour right now. Like, yeah, because this is for so many years. It's like from March until November is touring season. Yeah. for us. And,
you're usually on the road.
Yeah, so it's like weird being home for the 4th of July and like,
yeah.
What do I do? Like, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah, like go down to the Santa Monica Pier.
Yeah, So, but it's cool. Yeah, we have some dates. We have some stuff. I think we leave again in a couple weeks, and
you're producing other records and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I'm writing with some other artists, and then I'm trying to get into the scoring world. So I have right now management is having me put together my whole library of all these like 2 to 3 minute instrumental pieces and all that stuff.
Hell yeah.
Purely for theatrical release and all that stuff. So
that's awesome.
And I've always, like, as a kid, like that was always part of the goal. One of the main goals was score films.
Yeah.
No matter, I'll always be on stage. Like I'll make rock records and pop records, whatever. But like that's a big part of my life that I really am trying to transition into and make
awesome.
that a norm. Yeah. And Richard from Filter is already doing that. He's already scored a couple films, and he's working on some stuff now. Yeah,
because I think didn't Trent Reznor do?
Yeah, like Trent and Atticus Ross. They've done a couple films, a couple of David Fincher's movies.
Yeah. It's such a cool thing, and I feel like it's such an awesome other outlet. Like you said, there's something to performing on a stage that you need that, but you also need other outlets. Totally.
We all love being in the studio. Like, we're studio rats too.
Yeah.
That's part of the process. I think that's, performing on one stage, it's one animal in the studio, making the record and writing it from scratch and watching it unfold. That's, it's this whole other thing, and I love that part of it as well. And obviously, all of us, Trent included, like, we're all such fans of film and like great filmmaking, and like to be able to basically see, work with the director, watch some of the dailies and see how the actors interacting with each other in terms of the content of the scene, and what emotions that invokes within you. Like, what would you want to hear? I think that's such a cool process. Yeah. And I've always wanted to be a part of that. And and which I'm definitely working on.
Yeah, well, on a very small scale, I'm always working on little short films and stuff. We'll have to, dude, we'll have to try to collaborate on something.
Absolutely, dude.
Yeah,
I'll send you
it's
stuff.
it's cool.
I can't. It's been so long since we've seen each other.
I know. Yeah, and I was like,
well, because I remember the first time.
Now I have a beard. And,
yeah, right.
I'm not
Me
shitting
too.
on things.
Yeah, right.
Well, hold on.
What? Give me a second. Well, that's the thing. Like, I mean, I remember the first time we met, like in 2004, when Bam brought all you guys to when we were on tour at the Sounds.
Yeah.
We were playing the TLA.
Oh yeah.
And that was the first time of me meeting. Like, I think it was the first time you and I met. Definitely meeting Angie and Dunn.
Yeah.
For the first time.
Yeah.
Then of course, like, the relationship between me and Bam and all of us. When I was on the set for Jackass 3D pretty much the whole time.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious. And Dunn and I were really close and stuff. And
yeah.
But I hadn't seen you in so
yeah, it's been long. I kind of crawled into a hole for a little while, and nobody saw me for years.
But you're doing great.
Yeah.
You look awesome. You look
thanks.
the same, man. You don't age.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks. I grew the beard to cover it up. But
yeah.
But awesome. Yeah, man. No, it's been awesome to see you and chat and hang out. And thanks for coming on the Bathroom Break podcast.
Dude, thanks for having me. And we got to thank our mutual brother, Bam.
Yeah. Thanks, Bam.
Thank you, Bam.
Yeah, Bam.
Love it. Dude.
And thank
Rick
Cossack.
Dude, Rick Cossack. Like, Rick remembers me from set, from Jackass 3D set. Like, those are seriously some of the best times I've ever had in my life. Just being in the background, just sitting there and watching it unfold. Like,
dude.
It's just like, and the anxiety. I mean, like, I'm not even in the thing, and I'm anxious as fucking shit.
For everybody that's getting
I know.
fucked up,
I'm just sitting there. I remember signing the form, like, you guys aren't going to punch me in the face, right? Like, Bam's like, no, I won't hear. I'm like, please don't punch me in the face, dude.
Yeah. There's
like,
Rocky shit's going on, and you're like signing off to it.
You can see me actually when he broke Steve-O's nose.
Oh shit!
Because he did it. We were right in the catering area, and I'm sitting right there, and then he threw the water in his face and hit him, and then you see Steve-O just freak out, and I get out of the way because it looked like it was going to turn into a brawl.
Oh yeah. This is not fun right now.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude. Hell yeah. Well, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, man.
Sweet.